In 1989, a historian returned from Japan with a manuscript. He claimed he had copied it by hand from an ancient text, a text that had never been officially recorded, a text that contained secrets the Korean royal court had kept buried for over 1,000 years. The manuscript was called the Hwarang Segi, the Chronicles of Shilla's warrior elite. Inside was the story of a woman who had controlled 4 kings, who had placed 3 queens on the throne, who had ruled the most powerful kingdom in ancient Korea without ever wearing a crown. But there was a problem. No one could prove the manuscript was real. If it was a forgery, who created it? And why would anyone invent a woman like this? If it was authentic, why had history erased her completely? That question has never been answered, and it begins with a law that made ancient Korea unlike any other kingdom on earth. In the year 632, something happened in the Korean kingdom of Silla that had never happened before in East Asia. A woman sat on the throne, Queen Seondeok, and when she died, another woman took her place, Queen Jindeok. 2 female monarchs ruling in succession, in a world where women were rarely considered anything more than political currency. Why Silla? Why not China? Why not Japan? Why not the other Korean kingdoms? The answer lies in a rule that Silla alone had created. It was called Songgol, the sacred bone. Silla's society was organized under a rigid class system known as the bone rank. Your rank determined your profession, your home, your entire life. But at the very top sat one rank above all others, Songgol, sacred bone. The sacred bone had a single requirement. Both of your parents had to be royal, not just your father, both. In almost every other ancient kingdom, royal legitimacy passed through the father. The mother's bloodline was secondary. Silla had turned this completely upside down. If your mother was not of royal blood, you could not become king, no matter how powerful your father was, no matter how capable you were. Your mother's blood was the key to the throne. And that one rule set in motion 600 years of secrets, forbidden marriages, and a power structure that history has never fully explained. The logic of sacred bone created an inescapable problem. Sacred bone men and women had to marry each other. Only then could sacred bone heirs be born. But sacred bone individuals were extraordinarily rare. Cousins, uncles, nieces, the same bloodlines circling each other generation after generation. Were they the only royal family to make this choice? No. Egypt's pharaohs married their sisters. The god kings of the Inca Empire did the same. The reasoning was always identical. Keep the blood pure. Keep the power contained. Keep outsiders away from the throne. In Silla, this produced family relationships almost impossible to explain without a diagram. Consider Korea's greatest general, Kim Il-sung, the man who unified the Korean peninsula. His sister Moon-hui married the future king Kim Chun-chu, a strategic royal alliance. Then, the daughter born from that marriage, Lady Jisoo, married Kim Il-sung himself, his own niece. Kim Il-sung was now simultaneously his king's brother-in-law and his son-in-law. Was this outrageous? By modern standards, absolutely. But inside Silla's royal court, it was simply the most rational way to ensure the next generation of sacred bone heirs. The system demanded it, and the system always won. Now the story takes a turn that no one anticipated. In 1989, a scholar named Park Chang-hwa presented a handwritten manuscript to the world. He said he had transcribed it by hand in Japan from a document he had encountered there. The original, he claimed, no longer existed. Only his copy remained. The text was the Hwarang Segi. Its contents were extraordinary. According to the manuscript, the sacred bone system had a deeper layer. A matrilineal bloodline called Intong passed specifically through the mother's line. And within the royal court, two rival factions had competed for centuries to control this maternal bloodline. One faction, Jingol Jeongtong. The other, Daewon Sintong. Two bloodlines, one throne. Centuries of quiet, ruthless competition. And at the center of it all, a woman named Mishil. Scholars erupted immediately. There was no original document, no independent verification, no corroborating evidence in any official record. The debate has continued for over 30 years. No definitive answer has ever been reached. But the question remains. If the Hwarang Segi is a forgery, why would anyone invent a woman like Mishil? If the Hwarang Segi is authentic, then Mishil was perhaps the most remarkable political figure in all of Korean history. According to the manuscript, she had intimate relationships with 4 kings: King Jinhyung, King Jinji, King Jinpyong, and the royal prince Dongnyeon. She arranged for 3 women from her bloodline to become queens. She married her own nephew, the supreme commander of the Hwarang, to consolidate her power even further. She never held the title, she never sat on a throne, but no king rose or fell in Silla without Mishil's bloodline being part of the equation. How was this possible? The sacred bone rule had given her the answer. In a society where a mother's blood determined the throne, the woman who controlled that bloodline controlled everything. Kings needed sacred bone mothers to produce sacred bone heirs. Mishil's bloodline was sacred bone. She was not just a political player. She was the source of royal legitimacy itself. Was Mishil real? Or was she a symbol, a story someone told to explain what official history refused to record? We still do not know. And now the cruelest part of the story. The very system Silla built to protect its royal bloodline was slowly destroying it from the inside. Modern genetics explains what was happening inside those palace walls. When closely related individuals have children together, generation after generation, something dangerous accumulates in the bloodline. Recessive genes, normally hidden, begin to surface. Infertility, miscarriage, genetic disease, immune systems that cannot function. The purer the bloodline becomes, the more fragile it becomes. European history gave us the perfect case study, the Habsburg dynasty. For nearly 2 centuries, they married within the family. The result was the Habsburg jaw, a genetic deformity passed down through generations, growing more extreme with every inbred child. Their final king of Spain, Charles II, could barely chew his food. He died at 39. No heirs. Not destroyed by war, not conquered by enemies, ended by its own obsession with blood purity. Silla's sacred bone mine ended with Queen Jindok in 654. Historians cite complex political reasons, but after centuries of the tightest possible inbreeding, is it possible that the sacred bone bloodline had quietly bred itself toward extinction? When the sacred bone line went extinct, Silla faced a crisis it had never imagined. The throne sat empty. The man who eventually took it was Kim Chun-chu, the same man whose tangled family connections we traced earlier in this story. He was Jingol, true bone, second rank. By the old rules, ineligible for the throne. But with the old rules broken, he was crowned King Muyol in 654. And under his leadership, Silla unified the Korean peninsula, one of the most significant achievements in East Asian history. The irony cuts deep. The system designed to protect the throne eliminated every person qualified to sit on it, and the greatest chapter in Silla's history was written by the man the system had been designed to exclude. The Hwarang Segi remains unverified. Mishil remains unconfirmed. But this much is historical fact. In Silla, a mother's blood made kings. That law forced centuries of forbidden marriages, and that law ultimately produced 2 female monarchs in a world that had never seen one before. Whether Mishil was real, or whether someone invented her to explain a power structure too complicated to describe, one question remains. Why does history always remember the person who wore the crown and forget the person who made it possible? That question does not belong only to ancient Korea. Hidden Kingdom Files. The story's history almost forgot, but couldn't quite bury.